We from the webinar team, Bengal School of Technology, working as Senior Director, Technical Services and Sterile Subject Matter Expert with CIPLA. He is associated with industry from over 23 years, handling manufacturing operations of pharmaceuticals in both sterile and non-sterile dosage forms, categories for human and animal health use. During this period, he has actively involved in production, quality assurance, validation, CGMP compliance, training, and project management with over 10 years of senior management role. We welcome you, sir, for being a part of this webinar. Now, to start with, I would like to begin the webinar session by the introductory note from our respected principal, Sir Professor Dr. B. Suresh. Sir, please say something as a starting, sir. Sir.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all. On behalf of Bengal School of Technology, a College of Pharmacy, Sugandha, Hooghly District, West Bengal, I deem it a great pleasure to extend to all the participants a hearty welcome to the webinar on reimagining pharma manufacturing in the post-COVID world. I also extend a hearty welcome to the resource person of the webinar, Mr. Subrat Chakrabarty, Senior Director, Technical Services, CIPLA Limited, Goa. It's my pleasure to give a brief note about BST. Bengal School of Technology, one of the leading pharmacy institutes of its kind in the eastern belt of the country, with the state-of-the-art infrastructural facilities, was established in the year 2006 by the Supreme Educational Development and Charitable Organization, SEDCO. The institute is strategically located in a picturesque campus at Sugandha near Chinsura railway station, Hooghly district in the state of West Bengal. The location and the campus environment with a unique academic ambience provide a refreshing environment of a knowledge resource center to nurture the young intellectuals in the respective domains of education and research. The institute offers a 4-year B.Pharm program, 2-year M.Pharm program in pharmaceutics and pharmacology, and also a diploma in pharmacy. The institute is affiliated to Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology, formerly known as West Bengal University of Technology, West Bengal. The institute is accredited by NAC and NBA. The visionary and dynamic management has left no stone unturned in equipping the institute with dynamic, competent academic intellectuals of national repute, apart from providing the modern state-of-the-art infrastructural facilities of its kind to deliver the best possible services so as to generate competent, committed, disciplined human resources to meet the dynamic challenges of the global village in the diversified fields of pharmaceutical services. With this brief introductory note, I once again deem it my pleasure to extend you all a hearty welcome to the webinar. I welcome you all again.
Thank you, Principal Sir. Thank you, Principal Sir, for your precious words. Now I would like to ask Professor Dr. Pranavesh Chakraborty Sir, Director Advisory, SEDCO, to add his valuable comments on this session. Sir, please, sir.
Shubhat. Very good morning to my beloved student Subrata Chakraborty, my dear colleagues and beloved students and participants, my respected principal, director and professors from different colleges and university throughout the globe. On behalf of the management, faculty members, staffs, we are welcoming all of you in this webinar. I am really delighted and very happy that once who was listening my deliberation in the class, today I am sitting over here to listen the deliberation of Subroto Chakraborty, who was my direct students, and I am really proud of them. I think the deliberation of Subroto will be appreciated by all, and we will learn a lot, since Subroto has enormous knowledge of pharmaceutical manufacturing, quality assurance, product development, and so on, in various fields of pharmaceutical industries. With his broad spectrum ideas, we will be enriched, our students will be enriched. And again, I am welcoming a hearty, warm welcome to all of you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your warm and informative words. Now, I would like to go back to our webinar topic. I would request Subroto sir to come to link with us, and we can start the session. Sir, please, sir.
Thank you, sirs, for your nice, warm welcome words. Good morning to you all. Good morning to all the participants. I welcome all of you to in this webinar. It's my pleasure to present my thought process in this platform. Let me start sharing. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my today's webinar topic is reimagining pharma manufacturing in the post-COVID world. You would all agree with me that COVID has actually changed the entire world we belong in. And some of these changes are going to be permanent changes. And so would be for pharma industry. And I think many changes in pharma manufacturing is going to be permanent change for future. And some of these changes are for sure are for good, for the benefit of this industry. So I have tried to compile some of this thought process in this presentation. Let me just quickly go through the agenda, what we would like to talk on in next 1 hour time. So we will first understand the evolution of industries as a whole, how industries have come up in this universe. And then we go and understand how the pharma has evolved and how we have learned from tragedies as compared to any other industries. Pharma was always a little different in terms of adopting the new changes. And from there, this COVID-19 came in, and it is termed as now the biggest disruptive force of the century. And then we will look at some of the key drivers for change today and some of the technologies that will lead this change. And with this change, how the future would look like. And let's also see some of the hurdles which we'll have to overcome and the way forward, how it look like. So if we look at the industrial revolution, it happened in different era. It started with, the agrarian or handicraft-based economy to the industrial economy, which started in Industrial Revolution 1. This started with introduction of steam and water power, and simple machines were developed, and some kind of factory setup startup. This happened early or I mean late 18th century, and from there end of 18th century, beginning of 19th century, you can say. So industrial revolution 2 came up with introduction of electric power, and some kind of assembly lines got set up. So this industrial revolution 2 came up largely from Britain, and some better machines and better productive machines came in, and better factory setups were introduced. Since then, in the year 1969, or you can say late 20th century, the industrial revolution 3 came up, and this came up with initially with the simple transistor circuits to integrated chip type of circuits, and then introduction of robotics, the computers, IT sector came up. But largely they were isolated to each other. They were not connected to each other. They could not really interpret their, or maybe predict their failures. They could go into breakdown. They were largely managed by people. Now this is the era where we are currently in, is of smart factories. Now here the major difference is these largely sophisticated the automated machines are now connected to each other. They are able to talk to each other. They are able to predict if they are going to go wrong or they are going to fail. So these machines are essentially generating lot of data, and this data are now being able to be read with some cognitive technologies, and these data are now being helpful for predicting any failures, and they are now helping us in terms of reducing dependence on people, the manpower in any industry, and improving the overall productivity. So this is what is the journey of industrial revolution as a whole. Now if I have to talk about what happens in pharma, who are we? So I think I tried to pick a picture which explains us better. We are more of people who are risk averse. We always need a push. We need a push for change. So I mean, it's also understood why so, because we are largely dealing with patients. We are dealing with lives. We cannot make a change which will tomorrow result in casualties. So everyone in this industry is very skeptical for any change. We move on with very cautious approach, and we have got lots of procedural bindings to bring in any new change. Now if we look at the development in pharma, many of you might be aware of these tragedies which happened, which came in, and which finally resulted in this type of some kind of new regulation, and then we developed further. So this overall industry is not very old. It's hardly a century old. If you see in 1900 century, there were medicines sold from back of the wagon called miracle elixir. So this miracle elixir was sold, and they were supposed to cure all different types of diseases, be it pain, be it rheumatism, gout. So these different types of medicine. I mean, these medicines were so-called miracle medicines and used to cure everything. Now until 1905, till the journalist Upton Sinclair wrote a book called Jungle Book, and this book covered all the unhygienic practices being followed around US. And from there, it opened up eyes of people in the country. And then came up the Act 1906, Pure Food and Drugs Act. Then in 1937, 107 people died consuming sulfanilamide elixir, which was contaminated with a solvent called diethylene glycol. And this gave birth to Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act in 1938. In 1941, 300 people died or injured by sulfathiazole tablets, which were contaminated with phenobarbital, which is a sedative. And then this gave birth to 1944 Public Health Services Act. The thalidomide tragedy, which deformed about 10,000 children in Europe. Further, in US, they banned this product entry. But this gave birth to finally the GMP for drug and medical devices, 21 CFR today, which we still follow, 21 CFR 210, 211. So all these are, ultimately came out from tragedies. Now, if we quickly look at India, the history of India is not that bad. I mean, we started quite early. In 1901, Acharya P.C. Roy started his first Indian pharmaceutical industry named Bengal Chemical in Calcutta. In 1907, Alembic Chemical Works in Baroda. In 1919, Bengal Immunity started. 1940, Drug and Cosmetic Act passed. But during those time, we could only cover 13% of total medicines requirement of the country. So we were largely dependent on the Western medicine. And this Western medicine grew with, all these tragedies associated with it. Now, if we have to see where are we today, this journey continued, and until I would say this COVID-19 came up. So if we see the current span of Indian pharma today is third largest by volume across the globe and 11th largest by value. India is the source of 60,000 generic brands and more than 500 different APIs. And India supplies about 3 billion dosage of vaccines per year. So it's largely big. We have large opportunities. But what happened with COVID-19? It gave us a big jolt to the so-called pharmacy of the world. We call it pharmacy of the world. India is the pharmacy of the world. Now, the disruption started with disruption in the supply chain. When the moment the entire supply chain got disrupted, we couldn't get raw material, packing material on time. We could not dispatch our product to the market. So unavailability of the human resources who got stuck up in adjoining states, they could not travel because of the lockdown. The vendors could not come in who were supporting us in terms of validations or calibration support or any other type of outsourced activity which we were doing as a part of pharma manufacturing. The companies decided to halt all the new projects. So obviously it got into a crisis mode. The entire pharma industry with the advent of COVID got into a very, very, very crisis mode. And we became sensitive that we have to protect our employees for continuity of the medicines. So several SOPs and rules and norms formed overnight. All the employees were ensured before entry of the gate that their health is okay. They are scanned every day. We reduced the footprint, staggered shifts, staggered holidays. We restricted external vendors or visitors coming into the facility. continuous training and awareness building amongst the employees within to follow the social distancing, masking, etc. Daily sanitization of the vehicles by which they are coming, canteens, common working areas, social distancing norms were strictly followed. Virtual meetings, there were a lot of meetings were conducted in as a part of day-to-day work. So we moved to the virtual meetings the way we are conducting the seminar today. So then compulsory, mask and frequent hand sanitization, frequent, common touch points, sanitation of common touch points. So there are several controls put in place, several new SOPs were, put in place for ensuring the continuity of manufacturing, because pharma manufacturing is so key for, health of the country or for the world for that matter. We are supplying a majority of the medicines to the rest of the world. So here we came in. Now, from there, where do we go? If we see the present scenario, in the present scenario, it has got multiple challenges which we need to deal with. Now, continuously increasing patient awareness, continuously increasing regulatory expectations, these are driving the entire market dynamics. Increasing market complaints, recalls. We currently at this point worldwide about 10 to 11 recalls happens every month. So this is a huge number. It was never there in the past. There are so many regulatory citations, regulators coming, giving points to the companies for some improvement, some GMP area. So this has increased drastically over few years. Some of these expectations were never there in the past, which has come up now in today's world. There are also, if we have to meet all these, there are also the failures which we cannot tolerate. There are several failures of whether in the system, in the process, in the machines, which these are unpredictable. We cannot live with this scenario to supply a robust product to the market. We are largely dependent on human skills. So, and then humans are subject to errors. So we are, bound by that. Then there are increasing market competition, cost competitiveness. So the moment so many players are there in the market, you need to be cost competitive. You need to be having differentiated quality. You cannot make product which will not have any quality differentiator. There are so many, value addition happening on the same product, a different kind of pack, a different kind of value addition, which any customer, any patient would prefer to have. There is a decline in blockbuster molecules. There are not too many, research-based molecules in the pipeline. If we see the global scenario, there is increasing globalization of pharma companies. Many pharma companies are reaching out to the global market with complex. This is all together creating complexity in the supply chain. You cannot remain in a central location in one country and try to supply to rest of the world. So obviously they are making manufacturing facilities across the world and trying to go near to the market. And this is actually requiring better reach in terms of, in terms of the market, in terms of the patient, the population. And with all this, there is a big opportunity that is, several technological disruption happening in the industry as a whole. If we talk about the Internet of Things, you talk about AI, robotics, etc. So there are several such technological disruption. And all this change is driven by these technological disruption. And there is a great opportunity for such change. So if we see the global healthcare, it's around 11 trillion. It's going to be 11 trillion by year 2022. And Indian pharma sector is expected to grow by 100 billion US dollar by 2025. Now, which is today around 35 or 40. So it's a huge opportunity for Indian pharma to catch up with the market. Now, what we realized with COVID, we realized that with this COVID, we are so much dependent on human skills. There is a scarcity of real skilled resources. We have been adopting technologies, but then we were always hesitant to adopt new technologies at a faster pace as like any other industry. Our equipments are not truly reliable, where we can 100% rely on equipment and we do not test the product at the end. And overall, if we see, the healthcare system is largely challenged today. It's not that strong today, okay, to manage any such challenges which has come up at this point. So what do we do? So if we see the technologies that are leading change in pharma, there are automated manufacturing, which is talk of the town today. Most of the pharma companies are looking for how we can automate our manufacturing, and we can go into the continuous manufacturing mode, which many regulators are today pushing about. And this technology is actually augmented by a technology called process analytical technology. We'll learn it more in my subsequent slides. Then there is, of course, use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We will learn that. And there are 3D printing technologies which are now being adopted. Internet of Things is largely managing these whole technologies, and the direction towards Industry 4 or Pharma 4 is led by this, and the blockchain technology. Now, if we see what is continuous manufacturing, now in contrast to a batch manufacturing process, where it involves multiple discrete steps, where at the end of each step you hold it, send the sample to the QC lab, test it, you get the result, it passes till the time the work in progress is on hold, and then move on to the next step. As compared to a continuous manufacturing, wherein the input materials is fed from one end and it's expected to give the final product on the other end. So it looks very interesting, right? However, if you see, it's not that easy unless it is built well. It's supported with the right process analytical technology. So I have tried to depict the line diagram or process flow diagram. So if you see this, a typical batch manufacturing process of a solid oral dosage form. If you see this region 1 here, the API synthesis or the raw material synthesis happens in one manufacturing unit, where it has got its own different stages of manufacturing. At the end of each stage, there is a testing and storage. Then they get passed from that stage, it moves to the next stage, it gets again processed, then it gets tested, hold for the test result to come out, and then it is shipped to the formulation manufacturing site. Now in the formulation manufacturing site, again the material is it received, it is tested, it passes the QC test requirements, then these are dispensed based on the batch size and the requirements, then they are probably blended, and then again after blending, the blend is tested, for the right quality mix, and then then they are hold for a period before it moves to the next step. Then the granulation and sizing is done, and then they are, after granulation sizing, again they are blended, and then they are tested, and then move to the next step of, say, tableting process or coating process. So this entire process takes about a month's time. It's a very long time it takes. And that, since the entire process is again largely happens between man and machine, there is a big factor of the operator skills involved while doing such kind of process. Although many of these machines are automated, but they largely depend on operators inputs in terms of parameter setting and monitoring of the critical process parameters and quality critical quality attributes which are set at the beginning of the process. So this is largely dependent on human input. Now if we move to a continuous manufacturing, which is depicted here, it happens, I mean, the possibility is it can happen in only one site. It starts with the entire synthesis process, the crystallization, blending, the granulation sizing, the tablet press, coating, everything happens at a stretch, and the final product comes out. Now, how do you measure quality of it? So it is measured by the technology called PAT, process analytical technology. So the entire process is controlled by this pre-fed critical quality attributes, which are monitored through critical process parameters. So the process is controlled by critical process parameters, and which yields in the right critical quality attribute. Now we will understand that how. Now if we see in this continuous manufacturing, the biggest advantage is it reduces the production cycle time. It may come down as low as few days. It increases the automation and better process control. So it's no more dependent on human intervention at the end of each stage. It is not dependent on testing at the end of each stage. So the chances of human error drastically comes down. Also, since there are less manpower environment, so the requirement of people or manpower is also less. It requires smaller footprint of the factory. It doesn't require so much of storage space, because in case of a batch manufacturing process, you would require a lot of storage space for work in progress materials, which is not required in this case. You can just store the finished goods and you try to ship it. Now, with all these opportunities, there are also some challenges. Now, some of these challenges are the cost of transition. Now, when we say we want to move from a batch manufacturing to a continuous manufacturing, probably these set of machines will not be useful for moving into a continuous manufacturing setup. Probably we have to replace the entire setup machine, and the machine flow, man-material flow, everything gets changed. So probably we need altogether a different factory setup. So it needs a huge cost. But ultimately, it is worth spending this money, looking at the benefits we get from it. So existing facilities, no, it cannot adapt to this new technology. Now, apart from this, there is also a factor of regulatory approvals. Now, since the process steps changes, you may need to file this product again to the regulatory authorities and get a fresh approval. It may trigger an audit. You may have to go through a auditing process, and at the end of the audit, they will give an approval, and then probably we can go on. It also takes sometimes time because these new technologies are really new for many people, and that including the auditors. So sometimes it needs time to understand these technologies. So although most of these regulators are quite supportive in terms of this, they want to push these technologies. Like US FDA has come up with an emerging technology team. They want to address all these challenges, issues related to new technologies at a faster track. So there are, although a lot of supports, but someone has to venture it, and definitely many companies are working on it, and future will be of continuous manufacturing. Moving on to the process analytical technology, this is a technology which is going to actually support this continuous manufacturing. Now in this, what happens, process analytical technology is actually defined by US FDA as a mechanism to design, analyze, and control pharmaceutical manufacturing process through the measurement of critical process parameters which affect critical quality attributes, which I was talking about. Now, this essentially uses the PAT tools like some of these sensors, like near infrared, NIR sensors, Raman ultrasound, or UV visible spectroscopy. So these technologies are actually implemented for this technology. Now, what happens? It actually moves from a quality by testing, which we were reliant all these days for a batch manufacturing process. So we were testing at the end of each process, whether it is after API manufacturing or it is after manufacturing of a blend at WIP stage, from blend to compression, a compressed tablet. So at the end of each stage, we were testing for quality. If this quality test parameters were passing, we were to move to the next step. Now, moving on to this PAT technology, we are actually moving to a quality by design. Now, what is happening? By moving on to a quality by design, we are actually not monitoring the quality, critical quality attributes. We are actually monitoring quality parameters, and those parameters are indirectly affecting the critical quality attributes. So we are building quality in the process rather than testing quality at the end. So there are several opportunities associated with this. If you see, this will prevent rejection of batches, because you get to know the moment there is something going wrong in the process parameters. Sorry. Okay. So if anything goes wrong during the processing in the process parameter, you get to know right at that spot. And the machine is trained in such a way, it's able to correct itself as well. It's able to reset itself to the right processing parameter. Now, all these days, what we were doing, we were relying on the critical process parameters between a control limit, between upper control limit to lower control limit. There is a central point, target line, but the process was actually fluctuating between lower control limit to upper control limit. And we were most of the time responding if there is a problem, or reacting to a problem once the problem happens. Here what happens, the machine automatically understands, it auto corrects the processing parameters to the central line. Now this avoids any batch failure by going out of specification. And since this involves a continuous manufacturing, and this assists in continuous manufacturing, it reduces overall cycle time of the production. It enables real-time release. Since you don't have to do a quality testing at the end of each processing step, you can do real-time release of the product. It's only the matter of validating the process. It's only the matter of relating the right CPP, critical process parameter, with critical quality attribute, validating them, and making sure that this product is meeting all the acceptance criteria. This also improves energy and material usage. Since number of machines in some cases comes down, since these are continuous in nature, it saves your energy level, it saves time, it saves utilization of material by controlling the wastages, and it facilitates continuous manufacturing. So this is a technology which, although came up long back, this technology is, I think the first guidance came in 2004 by US FDA. However, the implementation that way is not that great. We are still in the process, in a very nascent stage in implementing the PAT technology. And we have to go a long way forward. And with this advent of COVID, I think this is going to get speed up. We are going to realize the need for it much more than before. Now, let us look at the next technology, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning. What is artificial intelligence? It is a study of how to train the computers so that computers can do things which at present human can do better. Therefore, it is an intelligence where we want to add all the capabilities to machine that human contain. So all these days, the process was controlled by human brain. We want to transfer it to machine, which many other industry have successfully done it. We have begun in pharma, we have just begun to utilize this. What is machine learning? It's a branch of artificial intelligence and can be defined as machine learning is a study of computer algorithms that allow computer programs to automatically improve through experience. Machine learning is one of the way we expect to achieve artificial intelligence. Now, you might understand that all these machines I talked about in a manufacturing setup are generating very huge amount of data each day or each minute, I would say. Now, these data are very difficult to analyze and take any action upon if a person has to really, a human being has to really look at each and every data point and understand and take an action. So in most of the cases, what happens, we tend to see the end result of it, whether it passes or fails, and we simply go ahead. As long as it falls under lower control limit or upper control limit, it is within the limit, we say. But we try to overlook if there is a trend which is towards it started somewhere within the target, I mean near to the target, towards the upper control limit. Now, if this trend we see from last 1 month, there is a trend of the product which is going, the assay is going towards lower control limit, or the moisture content is going towards upper control limit. Unless it reaches to that level, we don't take an action. And we are not really able to relate today which is causing this. So now with this artificial intelligence or machine learning, we would be able to pick each and every such data point. We would be able to sensitive to each and every such data point and understand that how this data are behaving and how it is comparing to another aspect of it. Say, for example, as I said, if an assay is a critical quality attribute, what is causing this assay to go up or down? Which is that process parameter which is causing this parameter to go up or down? It is able to relate. And this is possible by analyzing this big data through machine learning. Now, this has got a huge scope in a pharma manufacturing. For that matter, in the entire pharma industry, whether it is manufacturing or it's in supply chain or in regulatory, in R&D, there is a huge scope in developing a new product, understanding the scope of existing molecule for a different purpose. So there's a huge application which has begun, and we are long way to go with these technologies. Now, the opportunities are, it assists in automation and robotics. So today we have got robotics implemented in across the industry, but they don't talk to each other. They don't predict the failures. They don't let us know that how is it moving, what is the health of it. So with implementation of AI and machine learning, we will be able to be better aware, better learned about it. Reduce dependence on manual data management. Early warning signals of any process failures. And it aids in predictive maintenance. Some of the challenges, the cost of implementation time of AI projects is certainly high. It's an added cost to your existing facility. Lack of qualified professionals is a big challenge. Now, since these technologies are new, there are also need for these experts who are knowledgeable about these technologies and who can guide us in terms of application for my specific usage. The biggest challenge apart from all this is data integrity. Now, since we are managing a whole bunch of big data, and all this decision making on the quality of the product, on the patient safety is happening on this data. If any data is not integral, it could have a disastrous effect. And all these regulators and across the industry is very, very sensitive to this aspect. So the need is, while handling this big data, our system needs to be built in a robust way so that there is no opportunity for any data pilferage or data mishandling. Moving on, the next interesting technology which is coming up, gaining the momentum, is 3D printing. Now, 3D printing is the technology in which manufacturing method in which
মিউট হয়ে গেছে, মিউট হয়ে গেছে, আনমিউট করতে
the
পারো।
art
Hello.
sorry,
আনমিউট করো।
Sir, you can hear it?
I can hear you.
Sir, your screen is not sharing, sir.
Since when?
Just now, sir.
Okay, let me just try doing again.
Yes, sir.
It has come?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
It's all fine? Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Thank you. So So this technology is going to, revolutionize the entire pharma industry. On one hand, the doctors will write, if you see this, depiction, on one hand, the doctors would write the prescription specific to the need of the patient. It would get processed in a server and it will directly get into a printer which will print a tablet. Now, this is not long way to go. I mean, the tablets are already there. The first manufactured 3D printed tablet came up as Sputum, printed in 2015. This photograph, if you can see at the bottom, by Aprecia Pharmaceuticals, which is approved by FDA. So this is not long way. Probably this is the future of this pharma manufacturing industry, and there are huge opportunities. But then I think the challenges are no different. We need to deal with the transition cost. We need to deal with the adoption to the new facilities. I mean, it will not be possible to do in these existing facilities with the existing machines. We need to adopt new machines, new set of machines, new facilities. And of course, we have to go through the regulatory approvals. It has got its own filing requirements, timelines, cost involved. So all these things we need to go ahead. But again, this is what's doing. Another interesting technology which has come up long way, which has been adopted largely to many organizations already, is blockchain. It's a technology of distributed ledger. It maintains an ordeal of list of transactions that occurs between members of the network, which enables a decentralized ledger of trusted data, a shared record book. It's a record book which is shared across its value chain. Now, the manufacturer or a pharma manufacturer manufactures a product with unique code on its product, which is stored in the blockchain, in the server. Now, this data moves along with the product to the wholesaler in the blockchain, and wholesaler receives the product, it distributes to the respective pharmacists. So everything gets recorded in this blockchain. And then retailer or pharmacist further receives that product, dispenses to the patients. These are all recorded in the blockchain. Patient finally receives this product and this gets recorded in the blockchain. So all this happens in this server. The entire history of the product, starting from the manufacturing flow to the consumption by the patient, is recorded in the blockchain, which helps tracking the product, tracing the product across its value chain. Now, this is going to be very, very useful in dealing with the spurious drugs, the medicines which are produced at a different companies, which are adulterated drugs. So all this would be checked by this technology. Now, where are we today? Where are we going? So we are moving towards Pharma 4 technologies. So with these technologies being implemented, we are moving from a suboptimal inventory levels, production fluctuations, schedule urgencies. So these are all costs. The moment there is a delay or waiting period, there is a cost involved in it. And we are moving to a Pharma 4 environment for integrated scheduling, optimized inventory levels. So this overall reduces cost. The cost of a medicine comes down. Obviously, patient gets the product at a much lower cost. High dependence on operator skills for critical processes. It will, in a Pharma 4 environment, it will have much lower dependence on the operator skills for running individual processes. However, it would need an overall smart, tech-savvy workforce. high batch rejection rates due to process variability, which will drastically come down because of predicted maintenance, PAT technology, big data, high machine breakdowns associated with process deviations, difficult operational excellence efforts, data trending, analysis, corrective action. So today, although all these operational excellence efforts are driven by people, these data are analyzed by people, which will move to automated big data, as I talked about, and this will help in automated process improvement ideas. High setup time and time to market, this will improve with 3D technology, 3D printing technology. The setup time, or time to market, will drastically come down. Lower manpower productivity, wastage of resources because of all above reasons, will be much productive, will be much more productive with the implementation of these new technologies. So how this new smart factory which we talked about would look like? I have got a short video for you to understand how this smart factory looks like. So here it goes. This video is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So as soon as the operator enters, it's all recorded. So she gets all these charges. So team leader hands over the charge automatically. So it all transfers through the device. So any failure in the machine, it automatically alarms. So machines are predicting their failures. So the operator is able to see from his screen, from his virtual reality, augmented reality screen. So all this we understood how we are going to move on, but there are definitely some hurdles we need to manage. Now, biggest hurdle coming up are upgradation cost to the existing facilities. Now, in the post-COVID situation, we would not. Hello, my voice is audible, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So in the post-COVID world, we would not expect that immediate transition into these new type of factories very soon. Probably the industries would stabilize first from this situation, and then of course all these pharma companies would look forward for these new technologies to build a more resilient infrastructure or the processing system which will be future such kind of disruption. It will avoid such kind of disruption in future. So another one important hurdle is guidance from regulatory bodies, which are still not very clear. So there are a lot of uncertainty about the future. Although there are many companies and regulators working together hand in hand to adopt such new technologies, but I think it's a process needs to be followed. It has got its own time to come. Risk of data security, which I talked about, lack of visibility of the future, availability of tech-savvy resources. So probably many companies would have to build their own, talent pipeline to train these type of people who would be, tech-savvy to handle such kind of new technologies, or need to tie up with the universities who are providing courses on data science and all other new technologies, and resistant to change from amongst the industry as well as regulators is a big hurdle I see, which probably will go up as we see more and more implementation happening, and people would be getting the benefit of these new technologies. So as we go on, this resistance will come down. People will realize the benefit and they will move on with the new technologies. Way forward is better vision for these new technologies, for new factories, need for creating the talent pipeline which I talked about, emerging technology program by FDA. So similarly, there are many other regulatory agencies who are coming up with new guidances and support system to implement such new technologies, and technology modernization action plan which is launched by FDA. This is also helping us in moving forward with this.
Hello. Hello, sir.
New technologies. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Could we not complete?
Just now stop 1 second, sir. Sir, you stop 1 second. Please. Right. Hello. Am I audible, sir? Hello.
Sorry, where did I leave? Would we not complete to this slide last?
Previous slide, sir. This one.
Okay. So shall I repeat this?
Okay, sir, we have just mentioned about emerging technology. That was zero.
Yeah. So I think I'm end of this presentation. Just the way forward, I mentioned that it needs a better vision for new factories, the new technologies in the leadership across the industry. It also needs for creating the talent pipeline, whether it is within the organization or getting, tying up with the universities for this, different type of courses on data science or any type of new technologies. Uh, there are supports coming from regulators in terms of emerging technology program or FDA technology modernization action plan. Similar, more supports would be coming forward from many regulators. And I think the future is of these new technologies and future is of Pharma 4. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was
So-
very informative presentation.
So maybe now we can open for questions.
Yes, we can. We are open. I have collected some of the important questions, sir. I was going through it from both from YouTube live as well as from Zoom. We just a minute, sir. Sir, we have some of the important questions that I have collected. So the first question is, they are saying that raw material supply chain from China versus Indian raw material. So there is a supply chain crisis. That's what is asking. So is India ready for that? That's the question, sir. First question.
If you ask me at this point, probably we are not absolutely ready. We are still dependent on China. But I think we are gearing up fast. We are having some other alternatives as well. But immediately, if you ask me, it is going to increase the cost of the operation. However, the future would be we will be self-reliant. Yeah.
Okay. And there's another question, sir, very interesting. That is robotics used in pharma industry, or as we are moving to the automation, may put us in employment crisis? That's a question asked from a student, sir.
See, this is a notional, thought process. We used to hear this when first, computers came in.
Yes.
Did it eat our jobs? No, it just moved to a new type of working. It gave us a different learning. We learned new things. We adapted to the new requirements and we moved on. It did not eat our jobs. So it will not for future as well. Okay, humans would be doing their job maybe in a different way than what they're doing today.
No. Yes. So we have another question, that is how our country will become the global API or excipient hub. That means just like China, how can we have the capability of becoming the API and the excipient hub in future? That has been asked by one student.
Yes, so capability is there. Even today, we are manufacturing in APIs.
Yes.
But again, it largely dependent on the government policies and what kind of benefits as a pharma industry we are going to get. So it will be dependent on all this.
Okay. So this is a question from my side, sir, and some of the faculties are also asking. That is there a need for pharma students to learn new subjects like artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, Six Sigma?
I think it would be a good idea to take up these learnings, or maybe going forward, why not it could be a part of your B.Pharm curriculum or
Mhm.
maybe master degree curriculum? Why not?
Mhm. Okay, sir. That is good suggestion from your side, sir. That is very essential because you told like need of the data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So if a pharma student can adapt to this, well, there is a big job opportunity waiting for them in the pharma industry.
True.
That's true, sir. So another question, that is, do industry of India should highlight on anti-COVID protective drugs and curative ones? That's the thing they're asking.
Should highlight.
Yes, that's the question they have asked. Means they should be much more going inside this anti-COVID drugs, vaccines, whether because they are going to be the maybe a future market.
Sure, which India is already doing. If you see,
Yes.
many large companies are, I mean, deeply committed towards this new invention of products or maybe repurposing the drugs for this purpose. But just one thing we need to also understand, as on date, our strength is not the basic research. Our strength is generic medicine.
Generic.
So probably we would gain that strength in future. But then today, looking at this scenario, many companies, I would say, are actually focusing on this specific cause. Yes.
Okay. Sir, that there was a general question from the student side. That is, they're asking, like, after this COVID, we know that the you can say the employability in India has reduced a lot. So whether in the pharma industrial sector, it will be affecting to their employability.
I think there is network problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. So see, it is a temporary phase. Uh, Probably this is a phase of transition where, as I mentioned, it will move from a kind of working to a different kind of working.
Mhm.
So earlier it was totally manpower dependent. Probably earlier, to run a machine, if I would have required 10 people, we are thinking of avenues which will bring this 10 number to maybe 5 number or 3
Okay.
number. Why not? So it's a phase of transition. So at this phase, I think we should think of adopting new skills which
Yes.
would fit to our new requirements.
Okay. Sir, then just addition to this question, like, what do you think the new skills or qualities you expect at this moment from a B.Pharm student or a M.Pharm graduate, postgraduate students to join in your company?
Uh, See, nothing specific. I think so. What you are reading in your curriculum, you should be best in that,
Okay.
based on your interest area.
Mhm.
So if you are, willing to move to a research sector, so you are you interested in that direction. So if you have to focus on those specific subjects which you which will take you towards your research direction. So you have to really think of, you need to do your best in your inclination area. That's what I
Okay.
would say.
Okay, sir. So that's what the questions were there from the audience side, sir. Uh, I would like to now hand over the virtual space to our Professor Dr. Pranavesh sir to say something at the end note. Sir, please, sir.
Uh, Thank you, Subroto. You have thrown some major lights towards the future of the pharmaceutical industry and the academy. From the university point of view, I can say you that already the university authorities had a detailed discussion on these new areas where the pharmaceutical students should go through these artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., to keep the space with the upcoming industry process. And we are really thankful to you that you have given a crystal clear idea in a very lucid and commendable language, from which the learned faculty members as well as the students who are upcoming technologists have understood what is to be done and in which manner they have to prepare themselves. It is tremendously thought-provoking, and on behalf of all the part and parcel of the Bengal School of Technology, again, I am telling you the warm and hearty greetings and hope that in future also, as you have given your webinar, tomorrow or day after, you will make us understand every step of the future. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful end note, sir. So at this end point, I would like to thank Subrata sir for his time and the wonderful information that he shared about the current status of the industry. And regarding sir, Subrata sir,
Yes.
do you have anything to say for the university regarding any what sir told? You have anything to add up, sir, to reply to that, sir?
No, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, I would say, for sharing my mind. And I think it was wonderful having all the participants who are listening to me. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So, sir, it was a very nice opportunity for us to listen to you on the topic of the paradigm shift that the industry, pharma industry, is making in this current situation. You explained well about how we are moving from a normal factory to a smart factory, and the improvisation of the technologies involving quality by design, PAT, and the shifting from batch manufacturing to the continuous manufacturing. You also said us about the improvisation of new technologies, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, and how they are going to influence us on the current future. You said about us about the 3D printing technology, and also regarding the blockchain management and the various other factors which are going to be new thoughts in the industry after post-COVID scenario. Thank you, sir, for sharing your vital time, precious time with us. Hope so you will be with us very soon with a new topic, sir. And thanks a lot. Sir, I would like to know, sir, you have got the polls or not, sir, which I sent to yesterday, sir.
Yeah,
Uh,
I received that. Thank you for sharing that.
okay, sir.
It is interesting. I think it will add more value to the participants
Yes,
with
yes.
my talk.
Yes, yes.
I think this is more or less in order what we were talking about. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, sir.
much. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir. And so we are at the end of our webinar session. I would just like the participants to be online, as we are going to share the feedback link to you via YouTube, as well as to through your WhatsApp group. So just get that filled up, and based on that, the participation certificates will be provided to you. Um, so at the end of it, I am going to give my thanks to Principal Sir to spend his vital time with us, and Professor Director Professor to be with us. I would also like to thank Subrata sir mostly for sharing his vital time, for giving this wonderful speech on this topic related to the current scenario of pharma industry. I would like to thank lastly and wholly to the management of Bengal School of Technology for giving us the space so that we can organize a webinar on such a wonderful topic. So at this end note, I like to thank all of you. Just you wait for a while we share you the link for the feedbacks. Thank you all.
Okay, I